Okay. Hello, membership. We are back. This is UAW 440 Education Committee Podcast. This is 2025. We have a lot to go over. We here with Brian Hedger. I am Chad Millspaw, and today we are going to start to discuss a mock safety call. And then Jeremy Gilbert is actually reaching out. We're trying to get some more folks on the emergency response team. So if you are interested in that, please get with Jeremy Gilbert. All three shifts, I know the off shifts are the ones that have the least amount of people. So if anyone on seconds and thirds, but also days, don't think we're trying to exclude anyone, but seconds and thirds mainly is where we're short some folks. But if you're interested in that, please get with Jeremy Gilbert or one of the committeemen. If you're showing any interest in that, this is a good thing for everybody because if, you go down, you want someone to, make sure you're taken care of. Other facilities that I've been at, these emergency response team, the folks that do them, they take it very serious, and it possibly save someone's life. So, this is something that is very important. So we hope to have some volunteers that, want to do this. And so we are going to do a mock safety call. An individual will come up to me and is like, hey, is there any way you could do like a mock safety call? Because some people have, some difficulties with some supervision, and I get it, or they feel a little intimidated by it. And their question is what do you do? So we're going to try to go over what you should do in a situation that, has a safety issue. Now, what I can tell you, and I can tell every member in here, if you feel your life is endangered, you absolutely do not do the job at all. I don't care if Mary Bear comes down here and tells you, you do not do it. Okay? Can't stress that enough. Now, what should happen is if you bring up a safety issue, your supervisor should get with you and try to resolve it just like any other one. Okay? And if he cannot do that, that's when the committeeman should come down. Okay? And then the committeemen come down and they can go over what the issue is, and hopefully they can resolve it. Okay. And then I would venture to say a lot of times, a take two is done. They go over a plan. But anything that is out of the ordinary, that is not, you don't have a TIS for, or, a safe operating procedure for, those are really the ones that, you need to, hey, we need to stop this, make sure that we go over exactly all the hazards, and then move forward. And there's instances like that happen, because there's just not safe operating procedures for every single thing that could happen, but when you don't have one, definitely say time out. We need to get a plan together. And like I said, if you work this out with your supervisor, and, you go over, with this plan, your take two plan and everything, is kosher and you feel good about it, then that's how that system's supposed to work. Now, if you're having issues with your supervisor and he's trying to be pushy and things like that, just say, hey, I need my committeeman down here. Okay. And hey, that's when talk should stop. Okay. There'll be no more discussion about it. He comes down, the committee person comes down, they have a discussion with the supervisor. Hopefully they work things out. If they don't, your committeeman is going to come over and tell you what's going on. Okay. And then you can, either he's going to tell you, hey, this is not safe, don't do it. Or they're going to say, hey, go ahead and do this. We I think this is, still safe to do. Sometimes people don't necessarily agree with things like that, but, they have dealt with these situations before. Okay. And there's also, Jeremy Gilbert, is your health and safety rep. And he's usually here on day shifts. So the off shifts are, they're not here all the time. Do they occasionally come back in here because they're calling in? Absolutely. I've seen that happen, many times. But the folks that are, on the off shifts, they still know what to do. Okay. The committee person still should know what to do. And guess what? If they don't, They have a phone. They can call people. Okay. So there will be an answer and there will be a resolution to any safety issue that's brought up. But again, if you feel your life is in danger, absolutely do not do the job. Make sure you get a hold of your committee person, get them down here. If member management is trying to push you to do something that is in fact absolutely unsafe and shouldn't be done, do not do it. Absolutely do not do it. Okay? And if they want to throw you out, let them. Okay? Because guess what? That's what your union's there for, and that's what they're supposed to fight for. And if you were done unjustly, then they will resolve it. But safety issues like that, like I said, if it is something that is going to possibly injure you or harm you, absolutely do not do it. So, and here's an example I can give to some people that you're like, well, that's not really what it is. So if you see a puddle of water, okay, should you walk through that?
No.
Why?
You don't know if it's a puddle of water.
Well, that, and plus you could slip and fall.
Yep.
Okay. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because there was a member of management that actually slipped and fell in a puddle of water and injured himself. Okay. Thinking, a puddle of water, not a big deal. Okay. That's what I mean by something as minute as that, as a puddle of water. You think, that's not a big deal. But if you slip and fall, you don't know how you're going to land. There could be, you have no idea. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to an issue just like that. That needs to be cleaned up to where people are not going to, possibly walk through it, slip and slide. Plus you have vehicles that drive through. You don't want them slipping and sliding. That is a safety issue. Having water on the floor, having oil on the floor, those are safety issues.
And I think more people need to know that, because how many times the ceiling has leaked, and how many times I have texted my boss or told somebody that it needs to be cleaned up. And it's been there for hours because I just walked through the area or whatever.
Right.
I think it's crazy that more people don't turn it in. So,
and those are things that can be cleaned up easy. Get a hold of Caravan. They come over, they clean it up. No big deal. Okay.
You get a hold of your boss, they get a hold of Caravan.
Exactly.
And that's how that transition.
Yeah.
But yes, that's ultimately.
Like I said, water on the floor does not seem like a big deal, but it really is. And people need to look at it more like a big, because like I said, this member of management that seen that water didn't think nothing of it, and look what happened. Okay. And we don't want to see anyone get hurt. So everybody needs to do their part when it comes to things like that. Okay. And like I said, that's kind of a, not a big one. We'll go into one, let's say they want, like a die setter to do a lift that is out of the ordinary and maybe not safe. So for instance, let's say that the shot sleeve had cracked in half and is hanging, but they have to get the shot sleeve out. What do you do? There's not a TIS for that. And the reason why I bring this one up is because I've actually had to deal with this a little bit. So let's just say management come in and said, yep, you're just going to go ahead and lift that out. This is what you're going to do. And they're, hold on. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Hold on. What you need to do really is go there as a group and use your heads and try to assess what's going on, and then come up with a plan, okay? And a plan that where everyone is comfortable with trying to do it. Because that's really ultimately what you're trying to do when you don't have an SOP or anything like that. You're trying to think of all the safety hazards that could possibly go wrong with this, right? And then you're trying to prevent that from happening, okay? And that's what the idea when there is not a safe operating procedure on how to do something, okay? You get together as a group, you guys go over it, and you come up with this plan and you try to execute it. Now, if that's not how the supervisor wanted to do it, that's when you need to call your committeeman immediately. And, because that's what, higher management is going to tell you that, no, you stop, you come up with a plan, and then you move forward. Okay. Because that's just the way safety should be. Safety is supposed to be the overriding priority.
Absolutely.
So make it the forefront. So, and, like I said, if there's, some things that are brought up that you don't feel comfortable with, get a hold of your committeeman. Okay. If they don't know the answer, they're going to call someone that does know the answer. They're going to get you an answer. Okay. So don't be afraid to ask the question, but like I said, if you do not feel safe, you need to stop, have your supervisor tell them why. That way he can get a hold of your committeeman and they come down and, try to work that out, come up with a plan, but first off and foremost, you and the supervisor should try to work that out first. If you cannot do that, that's when the committeeman should come down. Okay.
Yep, makes sense.
And it's no different than actually putting in a call for anything else. Okay. What it says in your national agreement is that you and your supervisor are supposed to try to work out whatever issue you have. Do everything in their power to resolve the issue. If you cannot, then they will put a call in without undue delay to your committee person. Okay. And that's basically kind of the same thing. That's what you're going off of. That's the grievance procedure. And like I said, I haven't had a whole lot of pushback when it comes to safety, when it comes to things like that on a few things. And, we challenged them, but, don't be afraid to say no when it comes to, if you feel unsafe, don't be afraid to say no. We need to talk about this, And here's another thing that I want you to be cautious of, okay? Because the supervisors love to use this. Well, they did it on the other shift. Okay, that it right there is the biggest no. I don't care if they done it on their shift or not. Is it right or is it wrong? Okay, is it safe or is it not safe? Just because they done it doesn't mean it was done right or correctly or put someone in danger. Okay, so like I said, if you don't feel safe, make sure you put a call in and you give your supervisor and say, hey, I don't feel safe about this, and give them the reasons why. And don't come up with some BS either. Okay, we don't need that. Okay, if it's a legitimate concern, bring it up. They'll try to work it out. If they can't, they'll get over your supervisor, your committeeman come down. They'll resolve it one way or another. Okay, and that's to me how this process is supposed to work. And that's, like I said, it's pretty much the grievance procedure. It's just health and safety is the biggest difference. And, like I said, health and safety is supposed to be the overriding priority in the plan. So remind them of it.
Absolutely.
So that's how I always looked at it. Remind them of it. What's the overriding priority here at Bedford? Make them say it. I want to hear you say it. All right. Well, then let's make sure that we're treating it as such, and that usually kind of helps things out a little bit, because then they go, you're right.
They know they have you, or you have them.
Right. But you're presenting it in a way that, right. You don't be, and trust me, hey, when things start to warm up a little bit, tempers start to flare. I know this. Everybody else knows this. Okay. But if you can pause for just a second or half a second, just enough to keep you from going, it makes a big difference. It really does.
Yep, absolutely.
So
keep your cool about you.
Right. And then things they tend to go a lot smoother. But kind of got off the track a little bit on that. But safety, like I said, we also have safety stars. If your area you don't have a safety star, I suggest you try to get one or become one. That's a great thing that I think is great for this plant, because your safety star gets to bring up safety issues, and they get to talk with Jeremy and the management's side. You get to bring those issues up, and that's a great tool to help proactively resolve issues so that they're not on the floor. So it is a good thing. So safety stars, if you don't have one in your area, look into doing that. you can resolve a lot of safety issues in your area by doing that.
And I do want to add, since we're talking about that safety portion real quick, and I think that one of the things that people misconstrue severely is when people say, hey, you have a safety issue, write it on your 5 board on your safety concerns. And a lot of people think that it just goes there and sits and doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
And some people that have seen some of the meetings, and especially when it comes to that safety concern, and then after they hit a certain date, I mean, they really do pay attention to those. They really do care what's on there, and they really do want to fix it because it affects their area, it affects the way they do business, and it affects their the way they present themselves with their area to their upper people, such as the plant manager and the level 8s and stuff like that. So I'm telling you, I have noticed personally, like when we have an issue in my area, that sometimes it can, I don't want to say fall on deaf ears, but it's not as shiny and bright to them.
Right.
But as soon as I put it on that board, it changes a lot of things.
So another example I guess I can bring up, so here's for instance, like we have a lot of pigeons in the plant, folks, I'm just telling you right now, you get that stuff in your lungs, you're going to get some bad stuff. So I highly suggest folks that are in any area, if you notice any bird droppings, you put it on your level 5 board now. Okay, get it established, because these things they're breeding, and there's more and more and more of them every day, and there's more and more droppings every day. This has to be addressed. It really does. Is it one of those things you go, I'm not working? No, get a hold of your, the first thing you should do is definitely write it on the board. That's why I'm wanting everyone to do that first. Okay, and then that way you can start the conversation with your group leader. And it's 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, right? Well, once it gets to 1 month, it goes to PSRB. Okay, so when it gets there, that's when you have the plant manager and the shop chairman. They run that meeting. Okay, so when they have those issues come up, how it's kind of looked at is okay, what have you done to try to resolve this? And if it's gotten to there, that means it's probably a bigger issue than, they could resolve on the floor. If it's not a bigger issue that they think they resolve on the floor, then I guarantee you that the Mark Dickman's probably going to have a word with them. So those are kind of things that, do you want to be the one that's up there going, well, why didn't they? No. So bring them up, put them on your level 5 boards. But bird droppings, I mean, there's a lot of bird droppings in this plant right now. And to me, that it's something that needs addressed. If they come over and say, well, I cleaned that up, you're going to sign off on it and go, well, I would, but you know what? You're going to be cleaning it up next week because it's going to have the same thing, because we're not actually addressing what the problem is getting the pigeons out of here. Okay. And that's what the root cause is. And that's what they always talk about. What is the actual root cause? How far back? Why? Well, that's part of what it is. Okay. So that's the root cause. That's why I wouldn't sign off on something like that just because, they cleaned up the bird droppings. Well, that's good. But what are we doing to prevent the bird droppings from happening? Just things like that, but they're whenever they clean something up and or fix something, they're going to come over and say, hey, I fixed this. Is this okay? And then, you sign off on it, or you go, I got a question about it, and then, you go on about your business. But
I do want to reiterate, if you do sign off on something and you feel that it isn't okay or it reoccurs, there's nothing wrong with putting it back on.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So, that's how that process is supposed to work. And I always looked at it as let's make them, but to me, it always depends on who your assistant plant manager is, on how much GMS is going to be implemented, because they're the ones that are running the show when it comes to GMS and things of that nature. So, but still, are PSRB, employee safety concerns. Those are definitely things that like I said, when it gets to the PSRB level, whoever's area that is, I would assume that they have probably tried a lot of things to try to resolve that, because you don't want to have it at PSRB. You just don't, So, but that's what, as far as the safety calls, I hope that this has helped, some folks whenever they run into those issues. And like I said, I look forward to people bringing up, more things that they want us to do. So let us know, and I said we'll be more than happy to get on here and do these podcasts. Been kind of fun doing these. You get to change them up a little bit, but it's been fun so far. Put it that way.
Absolutely. I think it's a great thing. And as we continue and move down through it, and, likewise for any of the membership we have out there that would like to join in or have some ideas, and then also extension as far as like committees and stuff like that. So if you have something coming up, such as, that community service,
right?
Not only did they do that, the bingo night and everything there, they just actually went and served dinner at the men's warming shelter.
Yeah.
I want to say last weekend.
Yeah.
So it's another way of a committee to get on here, have a discussion here with Chad, and then advance their their topic. And
right. So, but like I said, a lot of ideas, a lot of different thoughts, and anyone who's got them, let us know. Other than that, stay classy, 440. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.